we've had more periods of growth this year when I can kind of really see it and feel it, and that's exciting, right? Like that in and of itself is fun. It's the like, if everything about running a small business is 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, right? Like it's sort of how do you sustain yourself through the 4 steps back?
That's part of being an entrepreneur. I don't know. I bet sometimes it either helps or hurts to go talk to your former colleagues and, see that the ones who stayed on that path of investing, what that's like. And I would guess you don't often work at 2 a.m. anymore, and you don't often go in and have to work full Sundays, but they are. I find myself every day working too much. I feel the stress of 5 years ago. I probably don't need to push that hard. We talk a ton about sustainability here, and I'm not sure I'm living it.
Welcome back to The Intentional Owner. You've got me, Kaustubh, and as always, Sam Rosati. How are you doing, Sam?
Hey, Kaustubh. I'm good, man. We're having great days, which is really to say we were laughing like off-screen pre-record about how terrible. Is this an explicit episode? Because I want to say shitty that today has been for both of us. But here we are.
John, you got to put the E on Spotify, whatever, for explicit. I think we're both in that energy right now.
So Kaustubh sounds like a duck because he caught a head cold, which comes from apparently the stress of being a human and a small business owner.
True that.
And I had
living with somebody who nannies little children for a living.
Of our 12 listeners, 11 of them who don't have kids are going to be like, what does that mean? Like, why would you ever get sick?
Right.
And I had part of my day job. There was a really fun experience that I just got to experience, and we're going to keep that confidential so that I don't
that'll
hear
be a future. Maybe like 2 years down the road, if this podcast is still alive, then we'll go back to this date and be like, hey, remember that.
It's a good one. All right. We're going to talk a little bit. Well, let me frame this. Our conversation today is going to be around some introspection, or we're going to start there, which is to say, like, this pod has always been 1, therapy for you and me, 2, meant to be entertaining, but 3, really meant to like share our own mindsets as 2 kind of typical entrepreneurial business owners and operators. And so we're going to kind of flip the thought process on its head a little bit and try to advise like our future selves. Almost step back. Like, have you ever used the, it's not the Calm app, it's the other one, Headspace?
Like Headspace. I think I maybe downloaded it and then never used it. That kind of energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got like just a tiny bit past that, which is it's this idea where meditation, I guess, is where you like step back from the noise, or you step back from all the traffic. So imagine yourself like sitting on the side of a mountain and you're watching like all the interstate and road traffic down below. The traffic representing like your thoughts, your worries, your ups and your downs. And you're just sort of sitting back at a distance, observing it all with, some clarity and calmness. So like, I thought it'd be fun to kind of do the same thing, which is to say, what if we stepped back and imagined ourselves, 20 years from now?
Okay.
So maybe for you, you're in your early 50s. For me, late 50s, kids are out of the house. I would hope we're financially secure and hope that we're debt free. So like a lot of the things that create some chaos today, being new to this, young, relatively inexperienced, owner operators compared to like our parents' generation, debt causes some anxiety that we otherwise wouldn't have, and some limitations. And, the fact that we haven't had complete financial security personally means we actually have to work still.
Right.
So what would we, like, Kaustubh, what would you want your early 30s-year-old self to know about this journey of business ownership? About Bluma? I think you'd probably acknowledge Bluma might not be the only business you own in your life. You
Hmm.
might not own it for it's unclear, right? That's kind of
Right.
part of the thing. Lives as being owner operator. What would you like say to yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm taking this almost from a standpoint of like, what do I hope is true? If that makes sense. Where
Yeah.
what came to mind first is like I'm now 3.5 years into owning and operating Bluma, and I think I have a bit of a sense in my head of like, okay, that's been long enough. Like I should be better at this now, right? And I feel like I'm still not on many days, and so I think like what I'm hoping like 50-year-old self would say to me is like, oh, 3.5 years is nothing, right? Like you're still so early in the game that, once you're 20 years into running and operating businesses, like that's when you'll actually be good at this, right? Or I don't even know if that's the right goalpost per se, but yeah, I think it's sort of like giving myself a bit of a pass on like, hey, like where should you be at this stage in the process?
Got it. Cut yourself some slack. Give yourself some
Right.
grace. You feel like you've been in this for 20 years. You're
Right.
not even close to that.
Yeah. It's tough because I mean, as I was driving home today, I was listening to the Lazy Leverage podcast with John Matzner. I don't know if you've listened to his, but really good.
Yeah.
I really like John, and he's a smart dude. But he was
Yes, he is.
interviewing Isaac Zimmerman, who did Jay Blanton Plumbing, or he's currently
Yeah.
the owner there. And I
Yeah.
visited Isaac and his company earlier this year, actually, when I was in Chicago. And like Isaac is roughly my age. He bought his business around the same time I bought mine. He bought it at sort of 6 million of revenue, and 3-ish years in he's run rating 25 million of revenue. It's really like one of the most stunning stories, and he is just truly a zealot about his business and operations and kind of just making that thing grow. And like obviously I have other things I value as well, but there's like it's hard not to listen to that being like, woof, like why have I not done it that way?
Is it all organic?
Yeah.
Okay. And like, what limitations does he have in his life? What limitations do you have in your life that he doesn't? Is it mostly like choices around work life balance, outside of work hobbies, or does he
I think
like
so.
what is
Like
it?
I don't know Isaac well enough to like know kind of what
Yeah.
trade-offs are getting made, right? And that's always the challenge with comparisons. But yeah, I think like my switch to entrepreneurship and business ownership was somewhat predicated on the idea of like having time independence and owning my time and having control of my life in a way that is more kind of sustainable, intentional, all the stuff we've talked about. And so I think going back to your original question, right? Like if I were to look back, 20 years from now and be like, hey, like, yeah, like you hopefully got to a successful business. And yeah, it probably took 5 years longer than your peers, but those trade offs were worth it for you, right? Whereas like right now, it's kind of hard to tell if the trade offs will be worth it.
Got it. Okay. Is maybe too like, is he willing to sort of throw caution to the wind a bit? Like he's hyper aggressive on some of the things that are risky, maybe like, ad spend or hiring ahead of growth that
Totally.
cause like stress among those of us who see downside risk.
Yeah, I think there's some of that. I think there's also like both him and John were talking about the idea of like hire fast, fire fast, as opposed to, people talk about hire slow, fire fast. And they were talking specifically in the realm of global talent, right? Where it's easier to hire people and then it's also easier to let them go. And I think like that just doesn't quite jive for me, right? Like I struggle with that idea of hire fast, fire fast. I understand why people say you need to fire fast, and it's something I've struggled with. But I think I have some sort of internal whatever value system or internal beliefs that just make that hard for me to do in a way that feels congruent. Whereas like it's not that they're acting out of congruence with themselves. They just like they believe, and I think they're probably right, that like when they fire fast, they're making the right decision for everyone, including the employee being fired.
Okay. So looking back 20 years from now, are you going to care more about you did things your way? Like you
Right.
used your own principles and North Stars, or will you regret having not traded those out for having a bigger business?
Totally. I mean, I think the issue that I'm noticing with running a small business or doing all of this for the first or second or third time, right, as opposed to the like 20th time, is my beliefs on how to run a business well are constantly evolving, right? And so, like, what I'm not sure today is if in 20 years from now I'll be like, oh yeah, like the best way to do this is to fire fast, right? Like,
Yeah.
and all of this time I spent today, not firing fast and really trying to make things work with a team member and like trying to figure out how to, like all the stuff you can do instead of firing fast was not a good use of my time. Whereas right now it feels values aligned to do that and really try to figure out ways to keep people that I think are deserving and trying hard.
Maybe that's the argument for getting to be a little bit more clinical, is to the extent you hire slow, fire slow, or just fire slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're taking opportunities away from your best performers. So
Totally.
there's a cost that is not borne just by you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No,
okay.
That's true.
I won't press you too hard. So
No.
then, I mean, and let me also say, like, you're one of like the exceptions. You came from such a straight path in Wall Street finance in investing, where I actually think the transition from that job you had to the job you have now is a huge shift
Totally.
compared to somebody that comes from like maybe a startup world, tech, early stage growth businesses, where it's not all that different than small business ownership.
Yeah. No,
Right.
I think that's right. I just had no managerial experience at all.
Yeah. Okay. So 20 years from now, you'll probably tell yourself, hey, chill out a little bit, give yourself some time.
Totally. I think that's right. I hope so. What about you?
Okay. So when I kind of think about my ETA career in two phases so far. So I kind of got into this starting in 2017 is when I learned about search. Officially started searching in 18. So I've almost been in this 10 years. And to me, that first phase is when I searched and then bought the two first businesses that my brother and I ran together, because like I was living your life where I was sort of alongside him, chief cook and bottle washer.
Yep.
And for better or for worse, or it's just part of the journey, we ended up selling them both. And it happened right when COVID hit.
Right.
And so I had like a very clear start and end date to my search journey that was way shorter than I thought. And I got the time to sit back and say, what did I like about it? And what didn't I like about it?
Right.
What I didn't enjoy is kind of the phase you're going through, which is I realized I wasn't great at managing, or I didn't know how to, and I was evolving. And that being capital constrained, people constrained, just being constrained was hard.
Yep.
And so I made a decision out of not luck, but the luck was I got to stand back and see phase one.
Right.
And just make a shift, which is to say, I'm never going to acquire a company where the day-to-day running of that business falls to me and me alone.
Right. And most searchers, they don't have that opportunity kind of 3 years in to be like, oh, okay, let's change the paradigm here.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because either you have to grow your way out of it, or it doesn't make financial sense to exit. Yeah. And it takes a long time to create the P&L space to hire your way out of it.
Right.
So yeah, I guess, so what I would say is stepping back in 20 years, I will be thankful that I got a chance to make that shift, because then I got to independent sponsor PSG, the fence business. And that made all the difference. And it also worked well. So
right.
In the job I play in that business, I enjoy a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're actually having fun and feeling like you're kind of playing to your strengths. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
This episode is brought to you by the Kalmar Group, a recruitment firm that specializes in placing leaders in the SMB community. Most small business owners treat hiring like a side project. Post on a job board, text a few friends, and hope for the best. But when it comes to leadership roles, hope isn't a strategy. The truth is, your people are your most valuable asset, and building the right leadership team requires more than luck. It takes a proven process. That's where the Kalmar Group comes in. They help owners like you find exceptional leaders in operations, sales, finance, and marketing, from managers to the C-suite, so you can stop guessing and start growing. Whether you're running a long-standing business or just acquired one through ETA, change is constant. Key people leave, new opportunities arise, and when they do, the Kalmar Group is there to help you hire with clarity, confidence, and speed. You hire an expert for legal, bookkeeping, taxes, etc., so why are you flying solo on recruiting and hiring? With clients across the country and a track record of results, Kalmar doesn't just fill roles, they raise the bar for how you hire. Led by founder Dylan Scroggins, a 15-year recruiting veteran, the Kalmar Group exists to help business owners stop settling for good enough and start hiring the kind of leaders who truly move the needle. To learn more, visit thekalmargroup.com or connect with Dylan directly. More details are in the show notes.
Do you think you're like 20 years looking back, do you think you'll be wishing you had adjusted anything in terms of sort of efforts put to what, like today, not looking, as search to independent sponsor, but where you are spending your time today and your energy today?
Yeah, a couple things kind of gnaw at me. One is I find myself every day working too much. Like I still have the stress. I feel the stress of 5 years ago. I probably don't need to push that hard. I could create some sustainability in this.
Right.
And I find myself every night, like at 8:00, opening up the laptop. And
right.
This morning, open the laptop at home before the kids were up. Like we talk a ton about sustainability here, and I'm not sure I'm living it.
Yeah. Yeah. How much do you think that's a function of it's not yet just your money at stake? Like you have an investor backing you. Does that play into that, or is it more personalized, like just how you are?
Yeah, I think it's probably like what's baked on the inside here, and
right.
maybe habit too.
Yep.
And because remember, I still have a few businesses where I do own all of it, or I don't have investors, like boot camp. I own that business outright, and I still find myself pushing hard. The law group, I've got 2 partners. We don't have investors, but we push way too hard, like day to day, in terms of lack of work-life balance.
Totally.
So,
yeah, it feels like you'd have to really put a stake in the ground and say, hey, at least for my personal businesses, right? Like part of their existence is reliant on them being sustainable for my lifestyle, if you wanted to make that shift.
Agree. Let's also be clear, even though our 55-year-old selves would say, hey, like, slow down, calm down, give yourself some patience. I also fundamentally think the first 3 or 5 years of being an ETA, you better be full bore ready for a grind.
Yeah, you kind of grind your way to sustainability, right?
Yeah.
It's not, no, I hear that.
All right, so let's flip it around a little bit. What made the path, so I guess 20 years from now, we're looking back, what made this super fulfilling? Like maybe said another way, we did this for a reason. Did we achieve the reason?
Yeah. I think for me, a big element of feeling like it was fulfilling is that I feel like I've released kind of worries about financials, or like personal finance, right? Like I feel financially secure without having to like trade all my time. Right. Like that, like that to me would feel fulfilling, is like, hey, like, because I don't have kids yet, but by the time I have kids, or more of my friends have kids, or, we're just more multi-generational, like having the ability to be invested in all of them, my friends, my family, my kind of the next generations, in a way that doesn't feel like I'm having to trade off financial security. Like that's sort of what I think I'm solving for right now. The challenge being obviously like it's really hard to guess how much financial security one needs, right? Like, but I think that's what comes to mind, at least.
I think I have the same take on it, which is my guess is this will all work out financially. So I got into this because I was a big law lawyer.
Right.
I had absolutely zero control over my time,
Right.
which I acknowledged was normal for being a junior M&A lawyer. What really threw me off is I looked at my bosses, very senior, well off, powerful, connected lawyers, and their life was not easy.
Totally.
And they didn't have control over their time necessarily.
Totally.
And so I looked at that and I said, this couldn't be worse. I might make a lot more money and I won't be able to enjoy it. So
No,
that's
that's
why
right.
I traded out. And the only mistake I'll probably look back on is, well, I did that. I created independence, but I'm still in many ways like not controlled by my job, but I've chosen not to have balance.
Right. Right.
How's that? Let's just be honest.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, do you think your 50-year-old self will look at this and say, why were you like that? Or I don't know. Yeah. What are you saying?
Okay, so I think the first 5 years of this, I am okay with having overdone it. Kind of overworked, didn't have a bunch of balance. When we sold the fence business or recapitalized with a private equity firm, I got a lot more financial security
Yep.
that I haven't yet traded work-life balance for. I'm still
Right.
pushing really hard,
Yep.
which is, I think, the intention because I do have a large financial interest in the business still.
Of course.
At some point, my 55-year-old self would say, you're making a mistake if you don't take a slow down path.
Yeah. And I think part of the challenge, right, is like for both of us, if some measure of success 20 years down the road is measured by we are financially secure and we have real control of our time and live more balanced, right? Like the challenge with that framing is it's really hard to tell how much financial security one needs to be secure, right? Like that's it's an unknown number, and so if it's an unknown number, the best guess is like, well, probably more, right? And that's, I think, that's like kind of a slippery slope.
It's a good point. I'm really anchored to what it would have been as a lawyer, which is a pretty clear path,
Right.
which is like it would have been really nice, but a full trade off for your time. And
Right.
I don't know. I'm happy for having made that trade.
Right. But so I guess the question then is like, okay, once you had the initial exit from PSG, obviously you're still in it and you have a second exit to come.
Yep.
But like, are you at a stage financially where you'd say like, hey, like if I were to talk to myself 20 years ago, like, maybe not 20, maybe like 10 years ago, right? Like before you got into big law, but you were kind of looking at big law, would you say like, hey, I've made it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So like on that perspective, that single criteria, the getting off the straight and narrow path, the well-worn path to this very different, uncertain path, like from that criteria alone, it was well worth it. But there are other costs.
Yeah. No. But I guess what I'm saying is, do you think you would say you've made it from a financials, like where you're at in your financials? Like you have made the financial security such that you should now be able to take time independence more freely.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's sort of the question then is like, why not do it?
I know. I don't have an answer for you. I think it's because it's still fun.
Yeah.
So there's still an adventure to building, and there's a lot of momentum in seeing your business grow.
Right.
And so it is a reward in itself, even though there's a cost in terms of time and some stress.
Right.
And I'll bet you if you were to see like a really cool trajectory of growth in revenue or team or whatever it is, your energy will come back really fast. And
Totally.
then we're not even having a conversation like this.
No, I think that's right. And we've had more periods of growth this year when I can kind of really see it and feel it, and that's exciting, right? Like that in and of itself is fun. It's the like if everything about running a small business is 5 steps forward, 4 steps back, right? Like it's sort of how do you sustain yourself through the 4 steps back?
True. Yep. Good point. But that's part of being an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
to be clear, you're still very young. So
Right.
I don't know. I bet sometimes it either helps or hurts to go talk to your former colleagues and, see that the ones who stayed on that
The path.
path of investing, what
Yeah.
that's like. And I would guess you don't often work at 2 a.m. anymore, and you don't often go in and have to work full Sundays, but they are.
Yeah. No, that's true. It is funny, right? Because I think at least when you work in finance, the sure thing is the money, right? The uncertain part is how much time you're going to have to spend because it just, it depends on deal flow. I don't know. It just is random. Whereas now in the position I'm in, I actually have much more control over my time, right? Like I do actually have, like I don't really work on weekends for the most part, right? Other than like some basic stuff. I don't work late because like it doesn't do anything for the business for me to work at 2 a.m. But whether or not it's going to be financially successful is way more unknown.
In the short run.
Right. In the short run.
If you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be doing it in the long run.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. You really can't map it to like, oh yeah, this year I put in this much time and this was the outcome.
It's true. I also, a couple other things that have helped is if you think about it, when you have a job, like it still surprises me how fast you can be on the fast track to a, very high powered, high earning career and just get terminated like that.
Mm.
Like you have zero stability in that business. At least that's been my experience is that, yeah, like there is a path, but at any given time, you can be kicked out. It's not like you're in a partnership locked in forever. Or,
Right.
you don't have an operating agreement that names you the forever owner.
Right.
So
No, that's true. But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point because I've never been fired before. And I think there's a part of me that's just sort of like, yeah, like any job I do, I would have been fine at then, which is obviously just not the case, not necessarily true.
Another one that comes to mind for me is so my dad traveled a ton when I was young.
Right.
And I made a decision that I was going to get into a career path where I didn't have to be away a lot. And so for you, I'm guessing most of the travel you do is either for fun by choice or it's for like a conference for work.
100%.
And like most other jobs aren't like that. A lot of jobs, you got to be on the road a lot.
Totally. No, I mean, I remember I was 2017. That year was my like 75 flights kind of, or 75 trips, you know what I mean? In that year, had status on like 4 different airlines, all of that good stuff.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fun at that point of my life, but it would not be fun now.
No. And think about it in your next phase. If you have a family, it's impossible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't even imagine.
This episode is brought to you by Aspen HR. Are you sick and tired of dealing with rising health insurance costs? Did you just acquire a business and discover the employee handbook hasn't been updated in 5 years? Do you think there is an opportunity to make your payroll process more efficient? Or are you tired of dealing with slow responses and payroll errors from your current vendor? If you want to professionalize your HR, benefits, and payroll function, reach out to Aspen HR. Run by a former searcher, Mark Sinatra, Aspen HR is the white glove PEO for search operators. Email sales@aspenhr.com today. And for our listeners, Mark will offer you a complimentary HR due diligence assessment. All right. So what would make it easier over the next couple years? So 20 years from now, you're looking back, like what could you do over the next couple years? What outcomes could you have that
Hmm.
would make this an absolute no-brainer. It was well worth the path?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think I've gotten better through conversations with you and others at not being kind of, endpoint oriented, right? Like, I'm not trying to say, like, hey, like, 2 years from now, if we are at X million of revenue, like, then this would have been worth it. Like, that just doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a lot, like, I'm trying to think of it in the lens of, like, what would my life need to feel like over the next couple of years, right? And to me, I think a big part would, like, I think I just want to feel more momentum, right? Like, and like we totally have spurts of momentum, and like things go well, things are clicking, things are going, and then like somebody important decides to leave or something breaks, or like you just hit that wall, and that's quite demoralizing. And it just feels like that balance between the two is a little bit too skewed, where like I want it to be skewed to like more energizing things happening.
Got it. You want like the improvements to compound rather than, the 5 steps followed by the 4 steps back.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to somebody, I forget who. They were talking about like in relationships, there's this like kind of rule of like 5 to 1 of like you should have 5 good interactions with your partner for every one kind of, difficult interaction. Like that's because difficult interactions feel so much harder and heavier than positive ones. And so a 5 to 1 ratio is like reasonable for a partnership or relationship as a whole to feel healthy and positive and, additive to your life. And that's the part. I don't feel like a small business is 5 to 1, or at least my small business isn't 5 to 1 right now. I think it's more like 3 to 2.
Okay. So you said something a while ago, though, like a framework I use, which is at the beginning of small business ownership, all of the bad things, like the 2 in that example, are
Yep.
really deep troughs, and the
Yep.
3 are really high highs, high
Yep.
peaks. And so you emotionally you sway way up and way down in the early days of
Totally.
business ownership. And then over time you get a bit sensitized to it. So like your emotional roller coaster is just less volatile for the
Yep.
same inputs.
Same stuff. Yeah.
So what if you're, I don't know, if I were to look back in 20 years and observe you as an owner, where it's not that you got better at observing them with less reaction, you didn't have to observe them because you were able to afford and onboard just enough team,
Totally.
maybe just 2 more people
Yep.
that allowed you to stay out of 1 or 2 of those things that you feel like are steps back in the business.
No, I mean, the one came to mind last Friday because one of the guys, he was driving one of our trucks and like, I don't know what happened, but he popped a tire, right? Like, and it just kind of like nothing bad just happens. But it's just like, that's one of those things that would have just sort of blown up by Friday because I'd have to go figure out like, hey, what tire company are we going to use? What tire is it? What do we have? Who's coming out to fix it? Blah, blah, blah. And in this case, like our operations manager, she told me it was happening. She asked if I knew of a vendor, but I didn't. And so she's like, okay, I'll figure it out. And then like I didn't really hear about it until the end of the day. And like the guys were back. Like that's an example of one where that would have been one of the like the 2 in the 3 to 2 ratio that was really like now it only felt like a 0.5.
Yeah. Okay.
So there are more like I think like 2 years ago the ratio felt like 1 good thing to 4 bad things, right? Like we're moving in the right direction where like maybe now it's like 3 good things to 2 bad things. But yeah, that's exactly right. Like either I like do more good things or I like delegate the bad things. I don't know. Yeah, but that's you're spot on.
Mm. Yeah. And I'm also imagine because right now when you're in it, you own it, not only in your time, but your sort of financial,
Yeah.
the impact on your financial life is so direct. I think that's really what I was trying to talk about today is sometimes the stepping way back, observing the traffic from afar
Yep.
generally tells you like this is all just passing traffic. This too will pass. Uh just be calm, relax, all of it. Doesn't necessarily help when you're in the thick of it, but maybe it helps you make some decisions around not being in such a rush to do things.
Yeah. And to
Eh,
your point on like the ups and downs not feeling as up and down, like that's also happening too, right? Where it's like, I mean, we've had a couple important people like leave over the last few weeks, which like 2 years ago would have put me on my knees, right? In terms of like, oh my God, how am I going to run this business?
yeah.
Whereas today I just feel much more comfortable with, yeah, we'll find a new hire, we'll make a replacement, we can train in, make an internal promote. We have more of a bench. And so the same problems as they repeat, yeah, their like emotional resonance is smaller.
All right, last one, then we'll move on, which is in 20 years, you're going to look back. Will you have stayed within greater Seattle, Tacoma area, or will you have expanded out?
You mean the business or like my, oh, the
The
business?
business. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you about like the next
Yeah.
venture if there is one. I think that's too hard to tell.
No, yeah. I guess what I was going to say is like I anticipate living in the greater Seattle area for the next
Yeah.
20 years.
Oh, yeah. No, I meant like Bluma.
But I think that it is unlikely that I would want to run another tree care company outside of Seattle, right? Like, or rather than outside of Seattle, I mean like not where I live, right?
Yeah.
I think the scenario in which that is happening, where I'm running a business or any business that's away from, that isn't Seattle specific, it would have to be a business that feels very remote friendly and like I can run it like a distributed team and all of that. Because I think the like time independence is one thing, but I think I've also felt with my business there's a certain like physical independence, right? That comes and like tree care as an industry is not like physically independent, right? Like you really have to be there and like show up and kind of like talk to the people and feel the energy and all of that stuff that I don't know, it's just tough to do, I think. And so like I have when I would be open to looking at tree care companies like in other markets in terms of like if they were already kind of a scaled business, right, with a
Yeah.
real operator in place. But I think the idea of greenfielding Bluma to Portland or greenfielding Bluma to Spokane or whatever, or even, to whatever further, that seems really unlikely.
Got it. At least you know that.
Yeah. The juice doesn't feel worth the squeeze there relative to making Bluma just a really best in class Puget Sound operator.
Sure. And from the outside looking in and talking to you every other week,
Yeah.
I have a really hard time imagining someone who will know more about how to run a proper tree care business than you after a few more years.
That's the hope. Yeah. It'll
Can't.
be confusing what to do with that information. Right.
That's the fun though,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
Anyway, we can digress. Okay. We kind of talked about it in the past, but I thought it was interesting because we've done it with boot camp, we've done it with boot camp and we've done it with PSG, which is one way to move the revenue needle
Mm-hmm.
is to add a brand new service offering.
Yep.
So you already have a brand name in tree care. You already do, in your case, one line of business that was like your tried and true revenue stream. Same with us, like fence construction.
Yep.
And so adding on new lines of service can be a really interesting way to have like nonlinear growth in your business. So I just thought like we riffing on it for a sec could be useful. For boot camp, for example, like the good old fashioned core live boot camp, 3 days in person has always been like our foundation. It's,
Yep.
in my opinion, like the best experience. I don't think we'll ever waver from that.
Right.
But then we've had mostly like demand pull from folks say, hey, I would, for whatever reason, I would like to try something less involved. So we made like a recorded video
Right.
templates, written content, less cost or less, lower price point. And then we did the opposite. Like we created a high touch, one-on-one coaching area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious, like, how do you think about any future nonlinear growth opportunities in Bluma that could move the needle?
Yeah. I mean, the one that we've already been working on for a while, right, was adding tree healthcare
Yep.
as a service vertical, which Has a lot of pros to it, which is that it's very in line with the idea of tree preservation and kind of
Yep.
long-term or client relationships. It's more recurring revenue and it's just more like specialist work, right? It's harder to compete with us on that. If you start to build your brand around actually being tree experts,
Yep.
which our team is.
Yep.
The challenge I've seen with that, right, is like, yes, like that revenue line is growing fast, but it's effectively a subscale service, right? Like
Right.
it doesn't really make money for a while, even if it's like one of the fastest growing revenue lines in our business. Because like as soon as we finally got it up and running, then we needed a bigger truck for it. So we had to buy the bigger truck, and now we have payments on that truck. And now like our arborist who was sort of half-time running that, half-time doing sales, like now he's close to full-time running that, right? So the cost allocation of his salary is, more weighted to this revenue line, which is a long-winded way of saying like it feels hard. I think it's like harder than it feels to like launch new services in a meaningful way. Like if anything, that would be a reason to go acquire. In my head, is like if you could go acquire a business that has an existing service line that you don't have, like that's something you can actually build on. Whereas like starting it from scratch, it has a lot of the downsides of starting any business, but you have the upside of you have like a customer base to sell to.
So can I throw some, like, have you thought about doing this in your
Okay,
response and your why?
sure.
Have you ever thought about buying like a vacant piece of land? Maybe it's a little bit more remote and turning it into like a tree. I don't know the words to use, so you're gonna have to help me. But like a dump yard for
Yeah,
tree debris. Like in Florida, there are these locations, people own them, and landscapers, lawn care folks, or private residents can dump their tree
yep,
debris. And then, this is where I'm going next, is like then they mulch it and then
yep,
they
and
sell the
sell it.
mulch.
Yep. I've thought about it. There's one or two people in this area who have attempted it. It's a tough. It's an entirely different business, obviously. That I guess put it this way, right? Like the capital cost to set up that type of a undertaking would probably be on the order of like $2 million, and right between the land and the mulching equipment and the coloring equipment to make it look nice, and like all and like let
Mhm.
alone if you decide to also buy a mulch blowing truck to like do the mulch delivery. So it's like, yes, you could do it. It's just like it's such a big swing relative to our existing business that it's not like when I think about it, like bet sizing, it's not like a well-sized bet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. It's essentially like you might as well just be cannonballing into an entirely different business at that point.
Yeah. Like to me, like if I was gonna take a $2 million gamble somehow, like it would make more sense to go into landscaping, even though I don't really want to go into landscaping.
Okay. What about tree debris? What do you do with tree debris right now?
Wood chips, we mostly are able to give away to people because people use it for their yards. And so our dump fees are actually pretty low on that. The firewood, like the large wood, right? We are now hitting a point of scale where like our old system doesn't work. And our old system was we had like a network of firewood getters who would come and pick it up for free because they would burn it. And
Okay.
we generate a little bit too much firewood for that now. And so the alternative is you go dump it at the transfer stations, or like dump sites, and then you actually have to pay dump fees. And so
Right.
that's part of what we're needing to start. Like I need to get tighter on is like we need to start pricing that in properly.
Price it in, or I'm just thinking about it as essentially just a different business. So
Yeah, no, I know. It's just real estate here is so expensive,
that
right?
might be
That's
the
the problem.
difference. That might be my gap in
Yeah.
understanding. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how to give a good comparison, right? Like, I guess like I'd be curious, right? Like in Tampa, well, like if you just start with housing, for example, right? Because those are probably easier to give context on. Like, what do you like? Are they building all the like townhouses there as well? Like, I'm sure they are, right? In the
Yeah.
city proper.
Maybe the difference is in the city, like where I live and
Yeah.
work, the cost of land is unsustainably high for disuse. But
Right.
you can get to a fair bit. You can lower your cost of land by
Yeah.
going 30 minutes away. Maybe in your town, it's like prohibitively far away to get the
Yeah.
cost of
You'd
land
have to
down.
go more like at least 60 minutes. And now
Yeah.
it's a different
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because
That might
30
be the
minutes
difference.
is, yeah, like where my parents live. It's still the full Seattle suburbs, right?
Yep. All right. I got
Yeah.
another one, which
Yeah.
is When I was in the PPC business or digital marketing, we would get leads all the time that
Mm-hmm.
we threw away. We were like, God, I can't believe I just paid for that click. Like, this
Yep.
lead is for some other service.
Yep.
Do you have any consistency in those leads? Like, you could monetize leads that
Yeah.
are not for Bluma?
Yeah. We have one in particular that is basically for consulting arborist work. So this might be like report writing. This could be like tree inventories. Like this is like support with the development permit, and you have to do like a tree retention plan. At the moment, we refer it all out, right? And we have good referral partners that we trust. And like generally it turns into tree work eventually, and the tree consultant will hopefully send them back to us for the actual tree work. I would eventually love to either bring that in-house or have, like one go-to outsource provider that we're kind of, subcontracting to effectively, as opposed to just like kind of giving away the lead. The challenge with that side, I think we will eventually do that, right? I think the challenge we've seen more is that like a good consulting arborist, it can handle like 100 different weird scenarios, right? Like that's the nature. It's like being like a general counsel lawyer, right? And so that's a really hard position to hire one person for. It's a lot easier if you have like the volume to have 10 of them, right? To like then you have specialization. And so you either have like a really excellent like marquee consultant arborist, and I know a couple of those in the Seattle area that we could do this with, or there's like really like one firm in our region who has like the volume where they have something more like 10 to 15 consulting arborists on staff, where then they can build specializations out. So it's really one or the other, but it's really hard. But if you're going to rely on that one kind of like marquee player, now you have created this weird other bottleneck issue, right? Of like, if they leave, then what do? Right? It's just
Yep.
hard to build a business around that.
Makes sense. And there's no other, because how much of your work is like a residential customer?
The vast majority, like 80%
Like
plus.
90%? Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to, we've talked about this all the time, which is even though the lead gen function is totally different, building out just a commercial division, it's the similar or
Yeah.
same actual work, but
Yes.
just a different top of funnel process.
Totally. The commercial side, I think we could definitely do a better job on, and we don't turn those leads away right now. We're just not that price competitive for commercial work. And so
Why
that'll
is
be
that?
more because commercial clients are less focused on kind of the quality of work, so to speak, from a like tree aesthetic standpoint, and like the trees being managed in a biologically sound way.
No,
Which
I'm actually, no, maybe that this is the reason. I'm asking, why is your cost of labor higher?
Because our team is higher, like trained and better than a lot of folks who are, like a really good commercial tree care company. What they're doing is they're putting guys in a bucket truck with a chainsaw, and they're saying, hey, saw a straight line from here to there so that there's 8 feet of clearance from the roof. Right. And I don't care what you're sawing, you're just hitting 8 feet, a straight line through. Like, that is not how our team prunes trees. Like, our team is looking to prune to the proper laterals, to find good unions, to find good cutting spots. Right. Like, and so it's going to be more of a natural style at the end of the day. But that aesthetic, like, commercial clients don't care about. So our work is just slower and requires more training.
So then if you were to go down the road of trying to get a commercial division opened up, by definition, you would have to almost change Bluma's ethos, which
Yeah, I'd need to hire a different crew for sure, and potentially do it under a different brand name because it's a different type of service.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, not to say like we can't do, and to be clear, there are commercial clients who do care. And so then for those clients, we do go do this work, but it feels like to be price competitive with the standard, like the most normal commercial client, like they're more looking at it as like glorified landscaping, whereas residential clients look at tree work as like it's completely its own trade.
Which is your intention to create that
Correct.
mindset shift.
Absolutely.
So then the last place I was going is right where you were, landscaping. You said don't want to go there. Say more.
So residential landscaping is such a red ocean industry,
Yeah.
right? And just really low barriers to entry. You're really competing with anyone and everyone, which isn't to say like there are good residential landscapers in Seattle that I'm friends with who are really, they're doing it, and they're building their business. But the ability to really build a team and culture is so much harder because it really relies on being cost effective, right? Whereas as a tree care provider, we're building our brand not around being price effective. We're building our brand around being like really good at tree care and like being really good arborists. And like we are going to charge a lot for that. Right. With landscaping, like that only goes so far. Like landscape design, I think you can get away with that more. But the problem with landscape design is now it's really project based,
Yeah.
right? Whereas I think landscape maintenance, it's much more of a like, hey, if the whole job is mow and blow and like, like pick up leaves and stuff, like you can't differentiate that much on quality. It's really like how cheap can you do the work?
Good point.
It's a different thing. It's a different competitive landscape.
Which sounds a lot like the commercial work in tree care. So
Totally.
you'd have a similar issue, red ocean
Yeah.
of competition, mostly due to the framing of your customer around this being, a commodity service.
Right. And the difference I think with commercial landscaping is in commercial landscaping, the project sizes are so much larger, the actual properties, that the sheer amount of contract volume is meaningful enough that you can build a big business. Right. And so you're still competing on price, but it's just harder. Like you're facing less competition because only so many players can manage like a 50-acre property.
Yeah. Right.
In any consistent way. Whereas like commercial tree care, there's usually less trees on a commercial property than on a residential property.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's funky. I don't know. I could be wrong about this. This is just sort of my sense so far from being into this industry. And maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid of like residential tree care, but it's not obvious to me that commercial tree care is actually like where I would want to push much more. Like I want to take the clients we can get, obviously, but I don't think I necessarily want to go after all the clients that are available there.
Got it. Okay. I think that's the point. Nobody tells you like what you should be doing. Nobody gives you like the strategic planning insight. There are no silver bullets here.
Yeah. No,
This
not
is
at
mostly
all.
like trial and error in the context of like capital and team constraints.
Absolutely. Yeah, but you're asked the right question, right? Of like, what are opportunities for non-linear growth?
Yeah.
Right. That's the question always, right? Like, what is the area in which, hey, if you pulled on this demand lever, like you could go find 30% growth.
Part of why I'm pushing on the commercial work, whether it's commercial tree care or something else that's tangential, is part of what could make your life better as an owner is if you can afford just, a bit more SG&A team, a layer of leadership
Absolutely.
team alongside your ops manager.
Yes.
To get you one tick layer further away from the day-to-day knife fight.
Absolutely.
And if you can build out a commercial tree care division, I get it. It comes with it needs to have a different brand name because the philosophy that you use to sell to those customers in some ways is in direct conflict with the philosophy and ethos you use to sell your residential clients. And it's what allows you to differentiate and charge a higher price.
Yep.
But obviously like the financial engineers and us need to put our hats off to the side. Like you still can make gross margin dollars that can allow you to build a more sustainable business.
Absolutely. I mean, that is ultimately like I'm trying to get gross margin dollars to fall so that I can then go add SG&A to make this business run better.
And so maybe to bring this sucker full circle, a big part of what I talk about with some of my partners in the fence business and with searchers and with you is to create optionality as owner operators, which is to say, like all of these functions and roles need to exist in our businesses. And then if we can ideally get to a point where they can either be played by you and me, or somebody else can play those roles and we can play a different role that maybe we enjoy more or is like more additive to the business than putting out daily fire drills. That creating that kind of optionality where we're kind of like equally okay playing this role or another one, and it's easy to replace us in that role because we have all of the team underneath. It's a very clear vision. We're not running too lean and working unsustainably.
Right.
And then like we can kind of, you can also play the optionality game of, well, maybe then because this is more sustainable for my daily life, I can either do another project in the business or buy
Yeah.
another business
Something
altogether.
different. Yep.
Or maybe I pay down a bunch of debt. It does throw cash off to me as owner. And maybe I no longer get the wage that comes from like the daily role I'm playing, but I'm still getting the distributions as
equity.
the owner, and that's
Yep.
sufficient.
Absolutely. No, and I think like for me, where I'm thinking about it is as I can add SG&A, that releases my time to then go work on actual like growth initiatives for the business. Right. So like, because when I have time to work on growth, I can actually help this business grow. I've found I just need to actually have the time to do it.
Totally. I get it. The problem is until you're able to get enough SG&A dollars to get out of like the resi side, you can't actually go properly build out whatever that next is.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really it. Right. Like I could totally imagine building a commercial division. I can't imagine building it right now because I don't have the time.
Yes.
But that's sort of the chicken and egg issue with these businesses, right?
Man, every one of us is in the same spot.
Yeah. So it's like I'm gonna actually after this call, I'm gonna go file our sales tax for last month. Like that's
the Washington State DOR finagle
man.
that crappy
I feel
website.
like every few months I learn like a couple new taxes that I'm supposed to pay. It's brutal.
So very, very exciting recent news was in the state of Florida, they're no longer charging sales tax on rental properties of some kind. I forgot like actually what it applies to. What I know for sure is the office I'm sitting in, where we have always had to pay sales tax, we no longer have to.
You pay sales tax on your rent?
On the rent I collect.
Really?
Yeah, because this is like a co-working space essentially that I manage.
Interesting.
Yep. So there's sales tax on rent here that, at least in the office building context, I don't know if it's more broad than that, is no longer being charged by the state of Florida.
Well, I just learned that Washington State just started adding sales tax to digital advertising. So Google ads are like now 10% more expensive.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. There is a God more powerful than Google.
Yeah. It's Washington DOR.
Holy cow.
That's luckily I've cut my spend on Google a lot anyway, so it doesn't actually matter that much. But
yeah. Maybe since we'll end it on a positive note after a fun day for us both. How many, like, if you were to like dollarize the value of your credit card points every year, what is it? Like 15 grand worth of credit card points?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
I used mine though to just like offset a payment on the credit card. It's not as exciting, but yeah.
All right. Sorry, but my degree is in accounting here. So I'm pretty sure did we talk about this before?
No, we did. Yeah. It's you
You're killing me, man. Like,
no, I know.
Put your head back into financial model. This is not the tax efficient way to do it. Take the gift cards, go do your take Amazon gift cards.
Right.
Which are not taxable. And then just pay off your tax deductible expenses the regular way. You have non-taxed income in the form of credit card points you converted to gift cards. And yet when you offset your payment do you still write off all those expenses?
Well, I mean, yeah, you do, but you've effectively added like taxable income in a form, right? Like,
right.
It's the same net outcome in that sense. If you used Amazon gift cards to then buy stuff for the business for Amazon.
No, I'm saying use the Amazon gift cards to just live your life on, like buy groceries.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that would be different. I feel like until I
Is that
own,
like illegal by the IRS? Like, is that what
it's
you're
not
supposed
illegal.
to do?
It's actually what most business owners do. That is 100% what most business. It's not illegal either. I feel like, I don't know. I have it in my head a little bit that like until I've returned capital to investors, I feel like I don't want to use the points personally.
I speak for one of the people on your cap table when I say, for the love of God, go cash some points out in the form of Amazon gift cards.
All right. Well, noted. I'll add your vote to the mix. But no, that's totally right.
Okay. Anyway.
Anyways,
All right.
cool.
Well, that's probably enough for today. We will be back at it in 2 weeks. And until then, see you in a bit.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.